Say hi, Lezo. Hi. Puppy. Hi.
You kind of had a tough labor, huh? A little bit?
Yeah. It was a long labor.
Sound asleep.
Did we know that we were having a boy? Yes,
Yeah,
we already knew. So we were pretty excited for Geiska to have a little brother. They were so close in age. And Geiska really was like, who is this? What is this? Took a while, took like 3 years, I would say, for them to really click. But Geiska was, like I said, 3. And then after that, we had a blast with them. We were very—
It was always fun.
Yeah, they were really good kids.
We did everything together. It was even a bit of a joke, but we figured that someday we'd live in the same neighborhood and we'd have our wives and our families together.
Geiska and Lezo were always together, and so they were always a package deal. When I started dating Geiska, I met Lezo and I had to befriend him. It was like I had to get Lezo's approval in order to keep dating Geiska. So that's when I first met him. I remember the first time he ever gave me a hug and I was like, oh, I've made it, but he would only give me a high five at first to prove myself.
And then he came on like every date he could squeeze into.
Yeah, and then we couldn't get rid of him. And then it was like, oh, it was always the 3 of us.
Here we are. Hi, Geiska.
Hey.
We always believed in athletics, and we felt that it was important to keep them busy.
Geiska was always in sports, and so Lezo just followed suit. Very competitive.
Very competitive.
Very competitive with one another.
Go, let's go.
Run. Come on.
Lezo is just a heck of a competitor. We both hate losing, and Lezo and I really were pretty aggressive with each other, had a lot of fun competing.
He was the first freshman, according to Michelle Girard, that could 3-step between the hurdles. And so I guess that's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
To be able to do that.
It started to show probably end of his sophomore year, junior year, really where he was headed. At the beginning of his senior year, he dropped that 14.44, and really, I think that's when he started to get a little bit of attention from Coach Harvey.
Almost like in his mind, disbelief, like, why are you talking to me? but it was really cute because, again, that just tells you who that young man, was in terms of, his ego. It's like, okay, I work hard, I do this thing, but yeah, this is University of Arizona. It's one of the very rare situations in my actual coaching and recruiting, career that I had to convince a young person that they can compete at this level.
I remember asking Lezo, what do you think? Are you gonna do this? And again, he wasn't really sold yet. But I remember telling him, look, you have an opportunity to do something, and this opportunity, this is the only time you're gonna have it. You don't know what you might be able to take your body and your mind, what levels you can take yourself to.
For him, it was easy. I mean, and the training wasn't easy, but what I was asking of him was very, very easy. We have very early training sessions because it allows him to be able to get that in, have the bulk of time throughout the day to be able to handle what we need to do academically.
Lezo became one of my best friends, and we took classes together because we both wanted to go to med school and become doctors, and so that became something that we bonded over. I knew that I wanted to go into some type of surgery, and Lezo did too, and he talked about, that he wanted to go into plastic surgery and like reconstructive surgery.
It was fun to watch him run too, and we'd go to, meets that we could if they were local.
I always have an annual Halloween party for my team, and we dressed up. In that year, he dressed up as, he and his guys, they were the Blue Men.
Halloween evening of 2013, he was at the stoplight at Oracle and El Conquistador, and he got rear-ended.
But it was minor.
It wasn't.
He got whiplash.
It wasn't a huge crash,
Yeah.
but he got a little whiplash. A few days after that, he felt dizzy,
He started vomiting because he was in chem cat class and the lights and everything, and he started vomiting from
Yeah,
it.
they took it seriously and they took him to UMC.
They did a scan and found that he had a malformation in his brain near his cerebellum, and that was the initial discovery at that point.
That is a collection of blood vessels that was in his cerebellum, and it's from birth, it's congenital. When they saw it, they were very alarmed, and they said if it bursts again, he could, have a massive stroke.
They determined that, this thing's gonna be a problem over time. You have to do something about it or you're rolling the dice. And Lezo said, I don't want to roll the dice. I want to be aggressive and figure this out.
It was on December 20th, and we thought that we had everything in control because we thought we're doing it over Christmas. And he said, I can't run and I can't do things if I know that that is going to be in my head.
We were walking into the hospital, and then Coach Harvey's walking around the lobby trying to find, somebody. It's a great example of who Coach Harvey is and the relationship that he and Lezo had. They took him back and got him prepped, gowned and everything. It was like probably at least 4 hours. The surgeon came out and said, everything seems to be great. Everything went fine according to plan.
I remember Geiska's parents telling us, you guys should go home, go get something to eat, go rest. We were just kind of dozing off on the couch, and then we got the call from your mom that he wasn't breathing. And I remember us talking several times and saying, man, when Lezo comes out of this, he's gonna be shocked to hear that all this happened. He won't believe that he had to go back for another surgery. We were so certain that he was gonna come out, and we were all just gonna be like, Lezo, why'd you do this to us? So we were so certain of it. Yeah. And then I think we came home pretty late that night. We came back here.
Yeah, that's right.
And then I was asleep on the couch, and your dad walked in and said he was gone.
And that is a complication of the surgery. You can die from a stroke. He died from a stroke.
He might have lived the rest of his life till his old age with it, if it never burst again.
They did the tests for brain death. They did all those tests, the apnea tests, all those things, and confirmed it. And then it was then you start talking about organ donation. And so it was then that became the thing that they were talking about.
It was so hard to believe, someone like that, a person had so much for the world, why? We're never gonna know the answer to that question, but it's always a why. I will always ask that question, why?
Imagine that there's a pane of glass, and you can see through that pane of glass, and everything that all of your hopes, your dreams, the people that you love are on the other side of that pane of glass. It was like we were on the wrong side of that pane of glass, and we couldn't get through. And that pane of glass is just a moment in time. That's all that it was, before and after. I to this day am pretty crushed.
It's a club that you don't want to be in.
Mm-hmm.
People come out of the woodwork to comfort you.
That you would never imagine.
That had lost children. And then you realize it's a big club. There's a lot of people in that club. You just don't want to be part of it, but you don't have a choice. That's the thing about everything, is that you have no choice. You have to move forward if you can, as best you can.
We wanted to celebrate somehow, and Lezo being the early bird, he was always up for the sunrise, and he'd send us these photos of these gorgeous sunrises over campus. And so we figured, well, why don't we try to go make something joyful and then wake up on the day, on the anniversary, to the sunrise.
They started talking about Lezo. We just started this thing where whoever wanted to come by for breakfast on the 20th could come by.
Celebrate him that way. bring everybody together, because when you do that and you bring all these different people, you have all these different pieces of Lezo. And when you bring everybody together at once, you're able to see him in a light that you really couldn't since he was alive.
It helps me kind of just get through it.
It's the best way to make a very difficult time, a very tough date, something positive. And that's how we started it. Haven't stopped since.
He was always there for you when you needed him. And he was there for family and all of his friends, and he just loved on you 100% whenever you were with him.
Just how fragile life is. So you gotta live like Lezo every moment, because you never know when it could be gone.
Cheers to Lezo. To Lezo. To Lezo.
Hi, I'm Tom McNamara, host of Arizona Illustrated. Thanks so much for watching this story from our show. And for more local stories from Arizona Illustrated, just click right here.